I'd like to introduce you to the woman who helped me create this panel, international life and business coach, Elizabeth Miner. Up next, we have beloved Year 2 speaker, author, and podcaster extraordinaire, the career introvert, Janice Chaka. Next, we have founder of Chrys Media and creator of Women Digital Nomads. Please welcome Chris Tan. And finally, our youngest member of our panel, to give us the perspective of what it's like to spend your adolescence as a nomad, please welcome nomad teen Haley Sherman. Please be seated. All right, so we're going to talk for a while. I'm going to have some great conversations with these guys, and then we will be opening it up to questions. So please think about what you'd like to ask them while we chat. So I'd love to start with the fact that nomads are really crap at planning for their future. Like, generally as a group, we're like, what are you guys doing in December? I have no idea. So like thinking a year out is hard. Thinking 10 years out is practically impossible. And I don't know if there's anyone in this room who could say what they want to be doing in 20 years. So most of us, like, what challenges do you think as a group we're not preparing for that we probably should be? Elizabeth, I want to start with you.
I would say the biggest challenge that I face, and I think most people are facing, is really worrying about what's going to happen when we can't live this lifestyle as easily, when we're a little bit older and maybe when illness sets in or when we get really old. I still want to be doing this in 20 years. I still want to be doing this in 40 years, but I will not be as mobile. That much I know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that something else, Elizabeth, when you and I talked first about creating this panel, one of the things that came up a lot was the fact that nomads, like, we don't deal well with these tough questions, and especially we don't deal well because we don't feel like we have space to talk about them. Like, how do you guys think, like, I think it's really difficult to come up with a reason to talk about this stuff. You know, you're having a nice, lovely breakout session, and, oh, by the way, I'd like to talk about what happens when I get old and decrepit. Janice, what do you think about how we should start talking about these more challenging, like, long-term topics?
For me, actually, it's a case of I have to deal with it because of my partner. I don't have family, and so I've had the luxury of being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. But I don't have that luxury anymore because I have a partner who has elderly parents and is thinking about all of these things. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to go to this and I want to do that and I do the other. And it's been a mindset shift that I'm still working with, that I have to take somebody else into consideration. And the other thing I've tried to do is pivot my business a bit more so it's less hands-on and less needing me to be there. So it's a little bit more automated and a little less labor-intensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And Elizabeth, I know that was something you are dealing with. You actually plan to be in certain places because of this. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have a father who's 81. And so I intentionally did not end up in Bali or in Fiji or some of the other tropical places I'd like to be. I decided that I needed to stay in this hemisphere while he is in Boston. So I definitely plan my travel so that I'm not, for months at a time, very far away. A 12, 14-hour flight back home, if something were to happen, was not something I was willing to address.
Absolutely. And I think something I know a lot of us have struggled with is sort of like maybe the judgment from others who think that we should be, putting other things first, like our priorities might be slightly misplaced. Chris, I know you mentioned like having some struggles around like what your family thought you were doing.
Yeah, I think I come from a very traditional like Chinese family, and so my mom's like the coolest out of them all, and so she was pretty understanding when I decided to quit my advertising job to start my own business and travel the world and live like a digital nomad. But I remember my uncle told me, he's a lawyer, and he was like, you are, like, why are you doing this? Like, you know what you should do? Like, go get a corporate job, and for 3 weeks, out of each year, you can fly business class to Uzbekistan, like me, and he'll take out all his albums and he'll be like, this is what you can do. And I'm like, oh my God, to be stuck with like a group of people roaming around Uzbekistan for 3 weeks, that was like my nightmare. And I was like, oh, that is so cute. Like, oh God, no. And then he added me on LinkedIn and he was like, oh, that's where your career is at right now. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly where my career is right now. It was so funny about it, but yeah, like a lot of people don't understand, especially from the more traditional, like high expectations for, you need to get a corporate job and climb the corporate ladder and be that good Asian kid, and then turning out to be absolutely the opposite of that. So yeah, that has always been a struggle for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Haley, I feel like for you, as someone who has grown up, you became a nomad when you were 12.
Yes.
And did you encounter any people thinking that you were making, like maybe your parents were making a weird life decision for you?
Not really. For the most part, my family has been very supportive of what we've been doing. I do occasionally get messages from my grandma that are like, blink twice if you need me to kidnap you and bring you back to the States. I always try to reassure her, no, I'm actually enjoying this lifestyle. But no, for the most part, our family's been incredibly supportive of what we've been doing, which I'm really grateful for.
That's awesome. So I think, like, a lot of our audience has considered or is already planning to start their own family and still be location independent, still travel as much as possible. So is there anything that you, like, find really difficult about being, like, having your adolescents be all over the world?
I personally am very introverted. I don't need a lot of friends, or I don't typically need a community around me at all times, which has made travel very easy for me compared to my little sister who needs friends constantly. I have found that not having a room, a personal space that a teenager would typically have, I've found that difficult because I can't decorate my room when I get into an Airbnb and we're there for 2 weeks. Like, I can't put up my One Direction poster or whatever you guys think teenagers put up these days.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Honestly, me neither. I have found that difficult, but for that reason, I've specifically asked my family to be like, I want my own suitcase. I don't want you guys putting your stuff in my suitcase. Mm-hmm. I get my suitcase, my stuff. I get to decide what goes in there, and they've respected that, and that's been super helpful for me. But for the most part, I have found travel to be fairly easy, which I think is mostly because of my personality.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Janice, I feel like that reminded me of you a little bit. I mean, more than a little bit, because I know that you also you like to have your own space. You like to make sure you carve that out for yourself. So how do you go about doing that?
Yesterday I took the day off. I wanted to go to Jenny's meetup, and I was just like, nope, I had lack of sleep, I'd been busy, I just took the entire day off. But I try and plan it in such a way that if I have a conference that I know I'm going to, I make sure I have time before or after or during to kind of deal with it. And now I've gotten better at picking my Airbnb spaces. If I have to share that space with somebody else, that there's separate rooms or separate baths, but just separate areas. Or I'm very much better now at communicating and saying, I'd like you to go away for a day. Could you do that?
And communication, yeah, because you do have a partner who is like not nomadic, but is kind of in between,
Yes.
in between the muggle to nomad spectrum.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give too much away about Chrys's talk tomorrow, but you are going to talk about what it's like to have to make compromises. Like,
A lot of compromises.
What do you guys think is the biggest compromise you've had to make as a nomad?
God, where do you start? Like, what place to rent?
Yeah.
What things to buy? Like, the other person wants to buy, like, a blender to make smoothies, and you're like, no, we cannot fit that blender in our luggage ever.
We've done that.
You travel with a blender? Amazing.
When we left the States, we traveled with a blender, and we had 13 suitcases at the time for all 4 of us, so.
Wow.
Wow, that's a whole
The blender
breakup.
fit, let's just say.
Yeah. Elizabeth, what about you?
I'm by myself. It's me and my dog, so it's pretty easy. He doesn't make too many demands on me. But I will say I did, in that respect, he is my partner, so to speak, and probably the best one I've ever had. But I did choose to rent a house instead of a condo. And that did have its own issues with it, and I got a lot of concern from the community I had moved into in Panama, and they were like, single woman, you can't live in a house. And I was like, no, but I am. And they're like, no, but you can't. You're gonna get broken into. And I've had 4 break-in attempts, and 1 finally actually got in and took my stuff, but that's because the dog wasn't there. So, it's a 6 in one, half dozen in another. But that's really, when I travel with 3 carry-ons and a dog crate. So if it doesn't fit in those, I'm not getting a blender. No way, no how. I will borrow one, I will buy one, and I will leave that in the Airbnb. But no, if it doesn't fit in my suitcases, it's not coming. I don't want stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's actually an interesting point. Yeah, like how do you guys, like, I know a lot of us, nomading in your 20s and early 30s, it's like, oh yeah, it's just a phase, like, to society, right? And like, oh, you're just backpacking, lightweight. But like, as we get older, as we move through our 30s and 40s and 50s, like, how do you go about, like, deciding which things, traditional things you might want, like a home base or a blender, and how do you go about, like, how much, I think is what I'm saying, how much do you think society's expectations of what 40 looks like and what 50 looks like are influencing you and what you want?
Can I just say, though, my luggage is getting bigger and bigger over the years. Like, I started off with, like, a carry-on, and now I've got 2 carry-ons and 1 check-in. And my partner, like, travels with rocks and plants, so we've got even more stuff.
Follow-up question.
Tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow. We're going to find out more about that tomorrow. But I know some of us have received, like, some pushback from people, not just, nosy neighbors, but Elizabeth in particular, you had a story when you tried to take one of your children around the world with you.
Yeah, when my son was entering 8th grade, my daughter was entering her freshman year in college, which was super great for me because this was my one window of opportunity. My son wasn't in high school yet, and I didn't have to pull my daughter from high school and be that mother. So I was like, okay, great. It's my one window of opportunity. My daughter's heading off. I'll take my son. He'll do 8th grade in Belize. This will be awesome. And I got a call from the school guidance counselor for my daughter. And she called me to tell me what a horrible individual I was for abandoning my daughter, for moving to Belize while she needed me the absolute most. So if I could have picked my chin up off the floor fast enough, I might have had a few choice words for her. But, that was the thing. And if I hadn't been strong enough in my decision and what I thought was good for my family, I think it certainly would have affected me a lot more than it did. I just hung up the phone and said a few curse words and went about my day.
Yes, round of applause for that. But it does bring up an interesting question. Like, Haley, because you've traveled around and you've lived in different countries, you've gone to school in different countries, how have, like, the teachers and the other kids who live there, who are locals, reacted to you and the way that your family lives?
It's been a very mixed reaction. Here in Colombia, me and my sister go to school, not to have grades or take tests or anything. We just go to have friends, to practice Spanish. When I told my classmates and my teachers about what we've been doing for the past 4 years, they were like, that's awesome. They had a very open mindset about it. I do feel like we've had some people that have been like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was trying to think of someone. But my sister's old ukulele teacher in Mexico, we told her why we were in Mexico, and she was like, I still don't understand. I still don't. Why would you do this? There have definitely been people who don't understand it at all. And we don't try to convince them or anything because it's pretty much a lost cause, probably.
Yeah. But you find enough people that you feel like you've got.
But honestly, for the most part, yeah, there have been people with very open minds about it.
Yeah. And what about like the community amongst like other nomad teens and nomad families? I know like you've been to the conference that's like for world families.
Yeah.
Like do you guys get together? Do you get support from the other nomad kids? Or?
Oh yeah, it's when we meet other nomadic kids, it's like it's immediate connection because it's not often that we find someone else who has these experiences in common.
Yeah.
It's not very often that you find someone where you can say, "Oh hey, I've been to the tallest building in the world," and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've done this too. Like I've done something similar." It's not. You don't get that with meeting people or kids, in my case, from the States or from my home.
Yeah.
It's a really fun experience to meet other nomadic kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're all about the importance of community here. We like definitely.
Yes.
But I think that's something like a lot of us have struggled with is, making sure that we find our people. I think a lot of us, it took a while to feel maybe comfortable either with this nomad community or whichever community we chose. What have your experiences been with like loneliness, basically? Chris?
It started out really difficult because I started out being a digital nomad as a single person. And I absolutely hated that I was constantly just meeting new people and a couple months later, everyone's gone. Like I was here in Medellin, I found a great group of friends. And we were only here for a month, so all of us eventually left. But now that I'm with my partner, it's much easier because both of us are just together all the time, working from home. So just kind of like, I no longer need to look for meetups, and I would even used to go on couch surfing just to meet up with people or forums, and now I don't do that anymore. Occasionally we do just to kind of meet new people, but over time it's just become less important to hang out with other digital nomads or find a community. But I really miss like my friends from back home just because of all these years of friendship and things are just, they're getting married, getting babies, and I'm just not there for anything at all. So I think that's actually more difficult than finding friends.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like balancing that like obligation to the life you had before you became a nomad. I feel, Elizabeth, you're nodding a lot. You got thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, I have virtual coffee and wine dates with a lot of my friends from back home because that's the best way for me to keep in touch with them because they are having grandchildren at this point in my life or children, and that's how I keep in touch with them. That part is super important for me, again, because I am single as a nomad, and I've chosen to live in a community for a year to up to 2 years at a time, so I can form that community because of that. It takes about 3 months, in my opinion, to kind of get your feel. Another 3 months to figure out, okay, who's your tribe? Okay, that person's pretty cool. Oh yeah, but they're annoying. So then you find your next, right? And so that takes your 6 months. And then you spend the next 6 months really developing that friendship because you don't walk up to somebody and just throw up your most vulnerable things, right? It takes a while to build that. So from 6 months to a year, you're starting to get that cohesiveness. And then that next year, you've got these friends that are much like your last friends. And then when I leave, I have solid friendships. So I have more coffee dates and more wine dates and sometimes a rum date.
I do the same thing as the wine dates, except it's playing video games with my friends in the States. So
Right, exactly, right? And it's
Video
super
game dates.
important, isn't it?
Yeah, it really helps keep a connection with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but that is challenging, the leaving. How,
Yes.
like, I think pretty much everyone on the stage except me has a home base, or at least somewhere they're staying for an extended period of time. I don't know if you guys are planning on switching up your home bases at any time, but how do you think you prepare for that? Janice?
My difference, I think, is, although my home base, I've lived in Mexico for 14 years now, most of my friends there, there's like 3 of them, and everyone else is I found I've got a lot of friends that are third culture children that are dotted all over the world, so I get to see them because I travel. My way of keeping in touch, I need people who are very low maintenance. I don't need someone who wants me to message them every day. And I don't have a home that I came from, so I don't have that pull back to feel that I have to deal with these expectations. So having friends that are third culture kids has been really interesting from that point of view.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Haley, I think, I don't know when your family is considering leaving Medellin, but when you do you think you're going, are you going to feel like, is there going to be a grieving process, do you think?
Probably a little bit, just because of the amount of time that I've spent here. I'm not really a city person, so I haven't really enjoyed Medellin as much as other people in my family have. I think I will grieve for the room that I have decorated right now. That, I have stuff hung up in my room, and it feels great, and I think I will grieve that a little bit. But we're planning on going to the Dominican Republic in March to get my diver's certification. So
That is cool.
kind of excited for that.
That is very cool. So the woman who originally was going to be moderating this panel, Labria Jones, who many of you know because she was at 7 and 7 last year, unfortunately she wasn't able to make it because of illness in the family, but she had a great story where she took her teenage daughter around the world for a year. And after that year, her daughter said, "No thanks, Mom. This is not what I want to do. I want to go back home. I want to go to high school. I want to play on my soccer team. I do not want to be a nomad." Have you ever thought, Haley, of telling your parents, nah, I don't want this?
No, I have not. I think the nomadic lifestyle is really fitting for me personally. My sister, however, has asked that, and we are planning on going back to Arizona in 2020 to give her the public high school experience.
Yeah.
Which I have no idea why she would ever want to do that. I am so lost. But that's what she wants to do, and by that time I'll be 18, so I can decide if I want to continue or stay in the States for a little bit.
Yeah, and what do you, not at 16, I know I probably could not have answered this question, but what do you think?
I already know what question it is.
When you're Haley gets asked a lot of questions by us nomad adults. What, do you think, when you're, going through what would be your college years, do you think you're still going to want to be moving around? Do you think you're, just so used to it, it's going to be hard, it would be hard to stop and be in one place for a while?
Yeah, and I plan to do my very best to go into a career that is location independent, so I can decide to continue if I want to. But honestly, I don't really like talking about how I'll feel in a couple of years because I'm 16 and I know that's going to change. So I don't really...
Wisdom from a 16-year-old, guys. All right, panel over. Well, one other thing I want to talk about is, what do you all think, what do you wish we talked about more as nomads in the location independent community? What topic do you think we're just completely avoiding, either because we just aren't good at planning or because we're actively trying to avoid it?
The future.
All of it?
Oh my God. Just retiring,
Yeah.
preparing for illness. Because that really hit me when my partner got cancer, and then we're like, oh fuck, I'm earning enough to live well now, but I don't know if I will have enough in the retirement account for, if something were to happen to me or my mom, because everyone's fine now, but it's expensive if we have to go through cancer or something else, right? Like my mom would break her hips or something.
Yeah.
Then I don't have that money to support myself and my mom or my partner. So it's we've never talked about that. So
Yeah, we talk about like the hustle and like how to make our
how to make
like,
more money just
yeah.
to enjoy more food now.
But just yeah, more food, yeah, which is important. But yeah, absolutely.
Especially in Medellin.
Janice, what about you? Like how like with the issues I know like with your partner and trying to balance his family's needs versus your needs and wants. Like how are you? Like do you feel like did you talk about that when you guys were like first getting together? Or is it just
Oh,
like?
no.
Like, do you think we should be? Like, people just think everything's going to be, like, perfect and cancer-free for the rest of our lives?
Actually, this only came up in the past sort of 6 months. And it's a case of, are they going to financially ruin you? Are they prepared? Do they have a will? There's a lot of other stuff that came as part of it. I know, for example, in England, if I buy a house, I have to get life insurance. It's not the same in all countries.
Yeah.
I have a house in Mexico. I don't care where it goes. I don't have family. I don't have people I need it to go to. I don't need a will. But apparently someone was offended that I hadn't thought of them in the will, so now apparently I need a will. People want my house.
Okay.
So that was just me thinking, well, I don't care, I'm going to be dead. The one thing that I did do is make sure I had global life insurance and global medical insurance. And this is actually one thing I wanted to talk about. When they ask you who your medical contact is, most people put their parents or their sister or someone else. How many of those speak Spanish? Like if something happens to you here today and someone in Spanish calls them and says, hey, something's happened, most people don't pick up the phone number if they don't know it. Most people don't speak Spanish. I made it a point that I'm friends with a doctor who speaks 4 languages and he is my call of contact. Because if something happens to me, I'm not going to be in a place to like say shit, so.
Keep your insurance cards on you.
All right, Deanna will be giving a talk
Yes.
about insurance tomorrow, and she's going to have some prescriptions for all of you, I am sure.
And give your insurance details to other people. Just having it in your email doesn't help anybody.
Yes, and like also like Kiri, Nick, and I have in case I get hit by a bus folder for 7 and 7, you
Right.
know, like because we all have different parts of the conference that we run, and we can't just keep it in our heads. Or if one of us gets hit by a bus, the conference isn't going to go on. Obviously, it's kind of morbid, but you know that's what it's called. And yeah, it's like planning for those eventualities is not something that I think are very good at as humans in general.
Avoidance.
Yeah, avoidance. We're good at that. But Chris, you mentioned like planning for retirement.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that nomads, like, do we even retire? Like, is retirement a thing for the people in this room?
I hope not. I hope not. I'd love to do what I do for the rest of my life. I really would.
Yeah.
So I have no interest in retiring, and I currently live with a bunch of retirees, and I'm just like, guys, you're like just sitting around waiting to just go. So that's not my gig. So, but I do recognize that I will have different limitations as I get older. Way older, because I'm
Yeah.
not limiting yet.
You make 50 look amazing, Liz. Yeah, absolutely. So, like, do you guys have, like, I've never been a huge fan of, like, bucket lists. But do you have, like, a before my knees give out list?
Oh,
you
hell
know?
yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's on the list.
Peru, Machu Picchu, before my knees give out.
Yeah.
It's kind of
beautiful.
Yeah, certain things you kind of have to do before your knees give out. That's one of them.
I have a bucket list of things to do before I have to pay for it. Mom's covering their ears right now.
Everyone in this room wishes they could do that. Amazing. So I think that one other question I want to ask you guys is, what advice would you give like young nomads who are just, you know, a couple years in the lifestyle, like very much focused on building businesses and traveling the world and not thinking about any consequences whatsoever? Like, I know all of us were that person. Some of us, yeah, hi, still are. Yeah. So, what do you guys think? What advice would you give? Like, either maybe to your younger selves?
A younger self.
When you were 10.
I was gonna say not you, but yeah. You know what? If you could like talk to 12-year-old you about like what to expect, like would you Is there any misconceptions you think you had when you were 12 that you're like, oh, I was so naive about nomading?
Well, I don't think this applies to any of the other people in this room, because this is a very like lazy teenager kind of thing. But I wish I had been more grateful and paid more attention in past experiences, because I did have a boyfriend last year who was online, and I constantly talked to him, and I missed out on a lot. I think I didn't get to observe the world around me very much because I was pretty focused somewhere else.
Yeah. A lot of us have that, but we call it our jobs.
Well, all right, well, that's fair.
But absolutely. I think that's absolutely right that we get lost sometimes in laptop land. Yeah. Chris, what about you?
I think mine would be telling myself, like my younger self, that shit could happen anytime. Like, it sounds so morbid, like we're talking about storytelling and all, but like just the past year, I just realized like how life could just go, like, just, you could just pass away anytime, or something could happen to you, and we're so in the moment right now, like whether as a freelancer or as a business owner, we're just traveling and enjoying ourselves, but then you don't know when illness might hit you, or you don't know if an earthquake might hit you and you just die in it or something like that. And so it's just so crazy when just like we're just like enjoying our life so much that we don't realize that. And like before shit happened to me, I was like hardly talking to my mom. Like, I'm traveling, I'm living in Mexico City. I don't have to call her all the time. And then after shit happened, I was like, oh mom, like, I talk to her like every week now, just cause. Like, I don't know when's the last time I'm gonna I'm gonna talk to her, like FaceTime her. So those are things that I would tell my younger self, like, just kind of appreciate whatever we've got right now and just spend more time, even if it's virtually, with our friends and family a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Janice, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, no, I don't know. What I would tell my youngest, start saving.
Aha, yes.
Yeah. Even if it's a little bit, even if it's £1, $1, a dime, whatever it is, but just start saving little and often.
I am the younger self that needs to start doing that.
Oh, you start now, you're going to be so golden.
Yes, yeah, really.
Yeah.
Sadly, I can't have a job on the road, so.
Oh, yeah, that's
Well,
interesting.
I mean, I probably could if I really tried, but.
I mean, there's some people in this room who would definitely hire you to do some stuff. But
Well, hit me up. Huh? I would love to. I speak nearly fluent Spanish, so that.
Hannah, you got a new
helps.
VA recruit right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Elizabeth, what about you? What advice would you give?
I would say follow Richard Branson fully and screw it, let's do it. I mean, just don't wait. Don't wait. There's always tomorrow or when I retire. I took a year of retirement when I was 36, 37. And I moved to Belize. I got my scuba diving certification. It was great. I dove the blue hole. I mean, it just, I didn't know. I grew up with a sick mom, and she was sick from the time I was 7 to 29 when she finally died. So I knew life was precious, and I knew time ticked, and I also knew that I may not get to retirement, and so many people get to retirement, and then they drop. So I wasn't going to risk that, and there's no geriatric scuba diving classes, so I moved to an island, and I learned how to scuba dive, and my son did 8th grade out there, and it was just, everybody said, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, whatever, and I'm like, but I'm gonna, because that's just who I am.
Absolutely. What do you think the best way to ignore those voices are?
I don't think it's to ignore them, honestly. I think it's to address them, and I spend an awful lot of time, especially with my dad, hearing what he means and ignoring what he's saying. Because what he says is kind of mean, but I don't think he means it that way. He says, he's scared because I'm alone out here. He's nervous. He watches the news. The best thing I ever did was stop watching the news, right? So I said, oh yeah, next I'm moving to Colombia. He's like, oh, of course you are. So I was like, Dad, stop watching the news. It'll be fine. I'll be fine in Colombia. He's like, have you watched Narcs? I'm like, stop, stop. So, but that's it. It's that really working with people to help them understand your decisions and know that they're not going to accept them, but just so that you have your piece of, this is why I'm doing it. Yes, I still love you, but no, I don't like Boston in the winter, period.
Very reasonable, yeah.
Exactly, right?
So what do you think, like, being location dependent obviously has its challenges, but it's also, like, the reason we're all here is it's the best. So what are you most grateful for? Like, Haley, what are you most grateful for about being raised as a nomad?
I am grateful for a lot of things. Probably first of all, I've been exposed to other languages at a pretty young age that I've been able to pick them up pretty quickly. Like, we did take Thai lessons in Thailand. To be fair, I don't remember 75% of it. But at least I was exposed to that, and if I want to go back to Thailand, I have experience with it. And plus just, being able to say that I've gone and done these things at such a young age is really, really amazing. I've also learned a lot of life skills by being on the road. Like, travel days, they're the worst. They're the absolute worst. And a billion things can go wrong, but you just figure it out. Otherwise, you'll be like stuck in the country for the next couple days. So I've really been kind of naturally taught problem-solving skills that I don't think a public high school could ever teach me.
Amen to that. Chris, what about you? What do you think is the best thing?
I mean, she's so mature, it's ridiculous. I'm like, when I was 16,
The road has matured me faster than.
when I was 16, all I could
Probably.
think about was like my grades. Like, that's like my examination.
Yeah.
The hell?
Well, if only we'd all been raised nomads.
Right, Mom?
Come on, Mom. What were you thinking?
Thank you, Mom.
Oh.
Let's have a round of applause for Haley's parents.
I am super thankful for just like pretty much hers. Just to add to it, like, I'm really thankful that just the experience that I get to try different food around the world. I mean, it's such a stupid thing, but when you live in Singapore, it's just a small country. I've never tried real Mexican food. Like, the first time I had tortillas and tacos, I was like, my God, they didn't cook my tacos at all. Because, like, the tacos I knew were, like, fried.
Yeah.
And I was like, my God, they totally forgot to cook my tacos. So I wouldn't have known had I not moved to Mexico. I'd be like, that stupid person who, like, why? Is because I'm Chinese, you don't want to cook for my food or what? And just like learning languages, because like when just learning Spanish, Thai, whatever, wherever we go. So it's just like the little things, right? Like, yeah.
Janice, what about you?
I am grateful for learning something about the Mexican system, so I got a house without actually. What I was saying was that.
Muchas gracias. Our AV team is stellar
On
this
it.
year.
What I was saying is one of the things I am grateful for is learning something about the Mexican system where I managed to get a house paid for and I didn't have to have a deposit or credit as a foreigner or anything of that nature. And the other thing is if an opportunity comes up like 7 and 7 last year at a moment's notice, I can just go and do it.
Yes, absolutely. I
So
do love
thank you.
that. Ooh.
I'm just not going to talk anymore.
I am most grateful for the opportunity to learn the different cultures because I always learn something. I'm a life and business coach, so a lot of the stuff I learn, it helps me help other people put different spins on their mindset and open up their mindset just by the different ways different people live. And because I get to experience that, I can then relay that to people and it becomes a lot more helpful for them. So it's business research all at the same time.
Yes, excellent. Such a nomad, always turning it into business. All right, I think we are about to open it up to audience questions. So I know we've got plenty. Our lovely mic runner Michelle is going to run around to you guys.
Bright light.
Hi guys.
Hi, Martina.
Okay, cool. So I have been meeting occasional people, more and more people who are coming at nomad life much, much later in life, like post-retirees. I met this one really cool guy in his mid-70s who, in the 60s, when he was a new graduate, he heard about this idea, you could go overseas, you could live with the locals, and he really wanted to do it, but it just wasn't the done thing at the time. So he got the corporate job, got the family, worked his way up, retired, and then heard that it was still a thing and you could still do that. And he started taking like short-term contracts all throughout Asia and all different places. He'd never identified as a digital nomad, but there's certainly links there. This other cool woman I met who's, also in her 70s, she was a teacher in Canada and now she's just decided to teach herself coding and she's traveling and very, very cool. What I'm wondering is particularly those people who have very different societal expectations on them based on their age, and the culture that existed in the 60s and 70s that, those of us born in the 80s, less familiar with. What do you think are some of the things that we can do when we encounter these people to help them out, or things that we should be aware of to, I don't know, maybe not say shit things that we shouldn't say? I don't know what those things might be, but any ideas, things that we should be aware of when we're hanging out with post-retiree aged nomads?
I'm feeling like this is directed towards me.
It's definitely not directed at me.
I was born in the 60s.
Maybe not, because you are someone who's come at nomading earlier in life and then have done it for a long period of time. More the people who reached 65 and then decided to become a nomad.
Yeah, I think that I think affirming their decision is a really cool thing. And personally, I think that it's great that people see this as a lifestyle option now, and that it doesn't only have to be in your 20s or 30s, and that there is a long-term possibility. So, a thank you to those people for still blazing the trail and still doing it. It's like somebody going back to college when they're 70, good for them, man. And so, a little bit of positive encouragement just because they're older goes a long way.
I would also say there's also something to treat, they're humans, and there's always something to learn from them, and you can teach them in return. I think there's always something that can be gotten from that, and just the way they think or how they're thinking. And also let them know there's no right or wrong way of doing things. Just because they're not doing it with a backpack doesn't mean it's not the right way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like if you type digital nomad into like Google image search, it's like all 20-something white guys with backpacks and laptops. Like that there is many, many ways to be a digital nomad. Yeah. And I think that probably like more like intergenerational friendships would be fantastic, because I know we did try like a lot to get some 60-year-olds on this panel, and we had a few, but it just kept not working out for the dates. But every single one of them was pretty much like a serial house sitter. Like that's what they did. And I think that that's because there's a really strong community there of people over the age of 60, 70, 80, even 90s but they're all doing that. And I think that, because it's good to have a community. It's good to be with people who are doing what you do. So I think, if there were more people who were of that age who felt that they could do other things if they weren't into house sitting, that would be fantastic. Next question.
Hi guys.
Hi,
This is it's for everyone, but it's kind of, I guess, more geared towards Elizabeth. Just because your story of your daughter or your counselor's daughter calling you, and I think everyone, or most everyone in this room has probably had the experience of friends and family not understanding this life.
Yeah.
But I also think there's a strong difference between people just not really getting it and like that, like abuse of family, of, actually, losing family members over it. I was wondering if you had any like advice or tips on how you handle a stronger situation.
Sure. Personally, my feeling with that is understanding this is about them, it's not about you. You're okay. We're okay. Yeah, we're different. We're not your average duck, but we're still okay. And this is a projection of theirs, and it's most likely, not always, but most likely out of love or fear, or it's out of you are showing them what they didn't do. And that is so scary and so anger producing and all sorts of emotion producing for some people. So again, as much as you can, understand it's not about you, and just keep that line open, because at some point it may dissipate and it may be open again, but just keep that open and know you're not broken, and get as many people surrounding you that help affirm that. That's my thought.
Absolutely. I think that was very wise. Yeah. Next question, there was one up there. Hi.
This is mainly for Haley. It's kind of a two-parter. If you don't mind sharing, I'd love to hear how your parents talked to you about this before you guys went on the road, and also if there were any resources that you found really helpful as a nomad child as you were
Teen.
Well, when she started embarking on this journey.
Well, we actually got started because we were sitting in the living room of our nice suburban house in Arizona, and we were watching House Hunters International. And we were watching this one episode about a tiny little town in Panama. And my dad was like, that it would be really cool if we left the States and went to go live somewhere for a little bit. And we were like, yeah, that would be pretty cool. Oh, wait, don't you have a location-independent job? Wait, we could actually do that. So literally 5 months later, we were in that town in Panama, dealing with the same realtor that we saw on the show. Like talking to the same guy that we saw on the show. And originally, we wanted to stay in Panama for like 2 years and then go back and enroll me in high school. I think it's pretty obvious we didn't do that. And we stayed in Panama for about 14 months, which was personally about 13 months too long. And that's pretty much how we got started. And then we started finding a community of nomadic families, and we were like, I think this is what we want to do. We have always made decisions as a family, like very unanimous decisions. And when they're not unanimous, like when one of us wants to go to one country and the other wants to go to the other, we kind of trade off which countries are beneficial to each. Like currently, we're in Medellin for my sister, so she can have a community. Next, we're going to be in Dominican Republic, so that I can have what I need. We've just always worked as a very strong team.
And I do think that's like a really beautiful thing that like I know a lot of us growing up probably didn't have, is like the ability for our parents to like give us what we needed literally like by moving us around. That's really incredible. Next question.
Yeah, so this it came from the idea that, Haley, that you were saying that your sister wants to go back and for some unknown reason experience American public high school. I also don't understand that, having been there. That I wonder, for you, seeing it with your sister, but also for the rest of you, are there people who are close to you that early on in your journey also had the same enthusiasm about it and have not stuck with nomadism? And what might look to you to be the reasons or the differences between you and that person?
Okay, I would say my best friend, she is Mexican, lives in Mexico, has a kid. and she will not leave a full-time job that pays far less than she's worth because lack of healthcare, lack of benefits in her country, she can't get insurance, she can't get healthcare. These things are really important for her, and so she lives vicariously through me. So that's kind of how she deals with it, depending on the society you live in and what you grow up with, and not knowing the different options, because it's really hard to get insurance. It's really hard to do all of these things, and for her, it'd be her second language. It's even harder. So there are definitely reasons why people stay where they are, but if they're happy, then it's all good.
Oh, absolutely. But I've definitely had the experience. I mean, this is the result of this, exactly what you described, is I was really mad that my nomad friends kept leaving me because I was like, guys, this is the best. But they felt that something was lacking. So this was my solution. But I think that it's, with the reason that I've seen people who do live location independent and then drop out of lifestyle, which I think is what you were getting at, is that it's usually a feeling that they're not getting what they need. Usually it's community. Usually it's loneliness. It's feeling unstable. And like my first like beautiful experience with nomad community was one summer in Berlin, 6 years ago, when a bunch of nomads happened to be, Berlin, when a bunch of nomads happened to be in that place at the same time. And it was like my first experience with having like a close like nomad family. And from that group, only 3 of us out of like 10 are still nomads. And a lot of them, there's one woman, I'll share her work. She has a project called the Post-Nomadic Project, which does actually go into all of this in detail, like why people stop becoming nomads. But generally it's because they were feeling like a lack of stability, and they felt that a home base like and a full-time job would give that to them. Now, I will say about 70% of the people I know who've done that have gone back to nomad life after a couple years because they realized that, we left the 9 to 5 for a reason in the first place. Next question, we've got time for probably 2 more.
So I want to know from you, maybe one of 2 of you, how do you keep up with like your friends? So you live so many adventures, like you go to from one place to the next, and then you meet new people. So how do you keep in touch with your friends that you left behind somewhere else, that maybe you really love to keep in touch with them, but life happens?
Honestly, I don't. My friends from back home we haven't spoken in like years.
Yeah.
We just haven't, and the last time I was home, it was just like, we meet up for food, and that's basically it. And then, I mean, when I first started becoming a digital nomad, it was easier because like, we would just like talk to each other on like WhatsApp and Facebook. But then it just became weird. Like, they're moving on in their lives. I'm moving on with my life. We're so like polar opposite, and they're getting promotions after promotions. So it's just like there's nothing really much to talk about. And with my digital nomad friends, again, we don't talk. Like we meet up, and if like once they move on and once I move on, if we ever come back to the same city again, it's like, yay, I'm here, let's hang out. But then, it's not like I'm messaging, it's not like when we first met in Singapore, like 5 years ago, was it? Something like 3 years?
Yeah.
About there. And then we hung out for a week, and then you left. You broke my heart and you left.
But now you're here.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. Like we formed a friendship, but then you left, and so but we didn't talk. Like we're not talking on Facebook, anything. So until we come back to the same place, and then somehow we just continue the same conversations again. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I left the States, I had this one best friend that I talked to every day, and we continued to talk every day for about a year. And after a year, we kind of realized that we were growing up differently, and we didn't have as much in common anymore. Like, we had the stuff that we did have in common before, but now our lives were taking such different paths that it didn't work out. And I mean, I still talk to her sometimes, but we're just not best friends. And now I just meet people online, actually. And I keep in touch with some friends that I've met on the road. But I mainly just meet people online, and I keep online friendships, so.
Something I think that I've had this thought a couple times is I wonder if, like, as nomads, we're a little harsh on ourselves with like, oh, am I keeping in touch with everybody who I've ever met? Because obviously we meet a fuckload of people. Sorry, youngin.
My 12-year-old sister who's in the audience.
We meet a lot of people. And, you know, we do feel kind of, I think, an obligation often to like, oh, let's keep in touch with everyone. I have to be friends with everyone. But I found it helpful to kind of, you know, check in with my cousins who are similar age as me, or my friends from high school and college who are similar age as me, about like, how are they doing with their friendships? Because I think we think, because we're moving all the time, we're losing people. But actually, when I talk to my friends who are also in their mid-30s, who are like having kids and getting married, I'm like, when was the last time you hung out with that book club you had, or your best friend who you used to have a wine day with? Oh God, I haven't seen her in a year. You know, I often wonder if it's how much of this is just growing older, and it is hard to keep friendships and make new friendships as growing older, as opposed to like it being a specific nomad problem.
Yeah, and I think that it's something that you really have to make a decision about. You're not going to keep up with everybody. I move every 2 years, so I have some pretty solid friendships. But there's a couple I will maintain, and then there'll be a couple that when I go back to Panama, I will say, hey, come into Panama, meet me at Picasso's, and then they will or they won't, and then that's that. But I also use LinkedIn, because I travel a lot domestically in the US, and I will go through LinkedIn and see who in my LinkedIn network is in DC, or I'm going to Austin in November. Who in my LinkedIn network is there? Are they people I want to get in touch with just because I'm there, and then do some sort of a meetup or a coffee date or wine date or whatever, barbecue.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay, one more question. And then I think that's all we've got time for.
I am loving this, by the way.
Thank you, Rhonda.
So I am just now coming into 2 years into my digital nomad life, whatever. And I am still experiencing that fear of missing out from my community, my tribe in the States. And I'm just wondering, does it ever subside? Or, I mean, I'm getting better, but I still feel like I'm missing out with a lot of like what's going on back home, even though I don't really have home anymore. So how do you deal with that? And is, you know, how long before it stops hurting?
That's a very good question.
Because I love this lifestyle and I'm not giving it up.
Hell yeah.
I'll be clear about that.
Yes.
It's not enough for me to go back. However, I still feel like it's like, damn, I want to be there.
Yeah, I've got an answer for that. In my experience, I went back, I'm born and raised in Boston, and I went back and I got together for a beer with my girlfriend, best friends for years. She was the other side of my cubicle, actually, so we shared a cube wall. Super tight, but I went back to see her a couple years in a row. And so I went to see her. I said, oh, so what's new? She's like, well, you know, I'm going to rent the Cape House, and I'm going to do this. And I'm like, oh, the same one that you keep renting? Yeah, the same one. And I was just like, ugh. So for me, it was like, that to me, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. One, I visited that Cape House once. That was plenty. That was fine. I get it. I know what it looks like. I've been there, done that, and I want different adventures. She wants that, and that's great. That doesn't make her wrong or bad, but it's so not what I want. So I still keep in touch with the important events, that part, and if I can travel back for that, that's great. But the life that a lot of my friends who don't live this lifestyle live is not anything I have any interest in living. Are you guys feel the same way?
I would say you forget you do get to choose your friends. Yeah. So if they don't align with what you need as a friend, then don't be friends with them. I don't understand, me personally, I don't understand the not being friends with being friends with people who don't keep up with your friendships. It's not just on you to keep up with your friendships, even though you are traveling. It is also on the other person. So if you say you're in town and they know you're only in town for that week and they don't make the effort, why? You're not that good a friend with them. Or you do a friendship in a different way. It doesn't have to be face-to-face. I totally have friends that I just WhatsApp or they're very bad at communicating, and they will say so. So if I message them, they will respond, but they will not be the first people to reach out. But they say so, and you set expectations. Just like you would with a client, it's the same with your friendships.
To answer your question, like, it still hurts, like, after a few years. Like, the pain never goes away. But I realize it hurts more when you're away, and when you go back, you're like, oh God, I'm so glad I left. Because, like, it's the same as yours. They're still in the same office, just different positions. They're still doing the same things. It's like as though I never left. And I'm like, thank God I left. But when I'm away, I'm like, oh man, I miss this, and all these things. So
It's that romantic, nostalgic memory.
it's like you and your ex, right? You totally forgot what happened with you and your ex.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I would like to thank all of our wonderful panelists. Give them a big round of applause. Awesome. Thank you. Sweet. All right.